Welcome to Beyond the Numbers, the podcast that explores the human side of financial planning. I'm Danny George, Head of Business for St James's Place here in the Middle East. And today's episode is a little different. We're not just looking at client stories today. We're looking behind the scenes of what it means to become an advisor with St James's Place, and why this career path can be so rewarding. I'm delighted to say joining me today is Ian Riggs, founder and CEO, chairperson at 8 Foundation and chartered financial planner, who's built a thriving career with SJP. Ian has been in financial services now for over 30 years, and he's seen how the right support, structure and tools can make all the difference. Today, we're delighted to say he'll be sharing his own story with us, what brought him to St James's Place, and why he believes it's a great place where advisors can truly build better futures. Not just for clients, but for themselves. Ian, welcome. Maybe you could start by telling us your kind of like unconventional journey into financial advice and what keeps motivating you every single day.
Yeah, hi Danny, and thanks for allowing me to contribute. The unconventional story. I told this story once and then it's now effectively been called the unconventional story. So when I was 19, which is a long time ago, I did my first bit of financial planning, which was I saved some money to go traveling around Europe. And I calculated how much I needed, how I was going to get around. And this is back in 1991, 1992, so it was a long time ago. And I went with a friend of mine, and guess what? We ran out of money. And we ran out of money on an island called Santorini. Now, most of you who've been to Santorini will know there's an airport, they've got banks with cash machines in, contactless and Wi-Fi. Well, in 1992, they didn't have any of that. And the only way to get to Santorini was via a ferry from Athens. So I'd run out of money, no mobile phones, no internet, no email, and had to get a job digging beach huts on Santorini and save up enough money to basically pay for someone to sleep. And I've eventually realised this isn't going to work, Ian. You're not earning enough money to get off this island. So I called my dad. So this is the unconventional part of it. So I called my dad and asked for help. And my dad was, in financial services at the time. So he actually was working as a financial planner for Lloyds Bank. And of course, the first thing he told me is, I told you so. You hadn't saved up enough money. You hadn't, planned out your future properly. But he did a deal. And the deal was very simple. I will send you the money to get a ferry to Athens, and I will send enough money to get you from Athens to come home. But the moment you come home, you have to come and work in the bank for at least 3 months over the summer before you go back to do your further education. Brilliant. And I was not a financial guy, right? I was I was into, art and drawing. So it scared me. The thought of actually working in a bank. But my first day was where I fell in love with financial services, because the job that I was being asked to do was basically being what they call a branch advisor. And what that meant was you sat in an office and someone came in and said, will you help me? Will you help me? I need an overdraft. Will you help me? I want to buy a house. Will you help me? I want to buy a car. I need to plan for this. Will you help me? And I've always looked back on that, that process I went through of bad financial planning, and my dad's rule, and then that first day as well. The job is about helping people. My dad helped me. I was then able to help other people, and now it continues to be, and the motivation behind it is we can really help people, not only our clients, but we can also help and inspire people in our business to grow, develop, and build better futures for them and their family.
I mean, first of all, that's a brilliant unconventional story, but it was interesting about how your dad, created that pathway for you in terms of almost saying, yes, I'll help you. But secondary, you start your job in the bank and being a branch advisor. So I do see that. So, you go back to that day now, that first day in when you said about working at the bank and just coming in, helping people in different formats. So many years further along the line now, what makes you so passionate about what you do?
The drive for me fundamentally sits in the roots of who we are as a business. You know, we run a business in the UK called 8, and 8 represents our values. So E is for exceeding clients' expectations. I is for inspiring them and our people to take action. G is for growing a proposition and our clients' investments. H is for help, and help is always on the hand, or in your hand whenever you need it. And T, building trusted relationships with our clients. So those key things are fundamental, and the driver in all of that is help. I know that we can help change people's lives. I know we can help people when there's a problem. My favorite word is yes. So whenever somebody asks for help, the default is yes. Often it's a yes. I've got no idea how we're going to do it, by the way. But the answer is always yes, right? Yeah. So because whether it's us that can directly do it or whether it's somebody that we know that can help, the reality is that ability that financial planners have got to help people in difficult times, and I know we're going to talk about some client stories in a minute, in difficult times, in times where they need you the most, or just in planning for the short, medium and long term, it's so powerful, and it's inspiring. And the more clients you help, the more stories you hear, and it's the stories that you hear that you just think, wow, well, I wouldn't have been able to hear that story if there wasn't a motivation to do more by helping people along the way. So that's what it is. And I don't ever see a world, certainly where I live in, where helping people is not an important part of who we are as human beings, right?
Absolutely. It was a great piece there, and I'm sure you mentioned the word about helping and clients, several times. And I suppose a question for me would be next is, you can see that passion coming through with you, is when you was first starting out and looking to, maybe not even create a business, but, be the best version of a financial planner that you could. What made you choose St. James's Place to be that place, to be that home for you, to start that career and to move this journey forward?
So I've been with SJP for 20, 25, 26 years. So it was probably 7 or 8 years into my career. And by the way, I stayed in the bank. I never went to university, and did all my training in the bank. The problem then with the bank and with the insurance companies, it was very much selling. Yeah. Sell the products. And the one-to-ones weren't about how did you help people. They were about how many products did you sell. And I was getting to a point, certainly personally, where don't think I was adding the value that I wanted to add anymore, because it had gone from helping people to then being driven by, numbers. So I started to look. I had friends in the industry working for other networks. I had, a really good awareness of what was out there, but I genuinely didn't know who J. Rothschild Assurance were, because that's the company name, if you like, which changed to St. James's Place, was originally J. Rothschild Assurance. Never heard of them. And it just so happened that I think somebody had mentioned that Ian was looking, and I took a meeting. And it's very obvious in that meeting that the organisation was grown up.
Yeah.
It was a client-centric proposition. It was about being different. And the way that they were viewing the progression, not only that you could have with your clients, but personally, the things that, I could achieve for me and for my family were uncapped. And there was genuine support available to build something, whereas until now it hadn't felt like, or until then it hadn't felt like that. I think then it was basically they had something that was unique. I think what they've done over the last 25 years is continued to build a business that provides advisors with something unique. And that's not always been easy. We live in, it's a tough industry, financial services, especially UK financial services. And SJP, for me, have fought many fires, won, many battles, but they continue to look forward and think outside the box. And that's why I'm still here. Is nowhere else can deliver what I believe financial advisors and business people need in financial services at all.
Very interesting. If you go back to the previous question we asked you, and that piece around helping clients, and then you moved into, when you first started out and finding the restrictions of, almost being asked to sell, and caring about that client more is, one of the critical reasons why you moved to SJP. Mm-hmm. I'm just intrigued to know a little bit more, because I hear a lot around cash flow modeling and how that has revolutionized or changed the way that advisors approach creating advice for clients and letting them achieve the goals that they need to get to. Could you just elaborate more about how cash flow modeling has supported you as an advisor and how it's helped your clients?
Cash flow modeling in 2025 is very different to what it was like in 2015 or even 2005, when we used to basically use spreadsheets to model things out, but they obviously weren't intelligent. You had to tell them what to do and they delivered an outcome. So I think we've been using cash flow modeling for decades, but what's now available in 2025 in some of these platforms is unbelievable. We can literally take a client on an entire journey from today through every life event they're going to have, whether that's the birth of children, the purchase of a house, an inheritance, a downsize, a retirement, long-term care, tax. We can take them on that whole journey live, in person, and visually show them whether or not something is possible. And better still, what the solution to make it possible is. And the system we use in the UK has a really simple way of showing that. And it's basically red if it's no.
Right.
And it's blue if it's not. So we can build a plan for a client who says, for an example, I want to retire in 15 years' time. I want to be living in Dubai and I want, $20,000 US a month. We can immediately put into that system, that's what you want, Mr. Client, press a button and it will tell us whether the answer is yes or no.
Yeah.
So visually the client can immediately see with information they've given us, not what we've told them, that it is not possible unless you do something different. But the beauty of that system is we can then shift it into a, so what do I need to do story, which is in most cases, you need to change something, save more money, be more strategic about your tax planning, work harder, get a promotion, earn those bonuses, whatever it is. What happens is that the client realizes that being a financial planner is about taking them on a journey, whereas today we're saying this is what you should do, but tomorrow we're going to review it. And then we're going to review it again. And then we're going to review it again. And then when an event occurs in your life, because we've got a strong enough relationship, you need to call me straight away because something's happened. I've lost my job. I've been promoted. Something's happened. I'm unable to work. Whatever it is, we reposition it into a system that we can take clients on that massive journey. So it's huge, and it also enables us to do, I think, another really fundamental part of our job, which is tax. Tax is, we were talking about in the car on the way here, there's no tax in Dubai, for an example. Well, that may be true on income that you derive from Dubai, but are you really going to be retiring in Dubai? And how many people do you, when you walk around Dubai, how many people do you see that are in their 70s, not working and retired? So most people are probably going to retire in another country, and there's tax in that other country. So cash flow modeling and using sophisticated tools that sit alongside it enables us to plan decades in advance to avoid those taxes that might be coming when you ultimately decide to do something like retire. So it's brilliant. Absolutely fantastic.
Great. So just want to touch on a point that you raised then. We'll talk about cash flow modeling, and that was client servicing. So there's probably a two-pronged question to this. Is first of all, in your view of being a highly successful chartered financial planner, how important is client servicing in your view? And secondly to that, we talked a lot there about technology, and how do you see the technology landscape supporting you as a financial advisor in the next 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, good questions. The client experience I tend to always revert back to some advice that I was given by a chap once who basically, he was helping us look at our client experience, look at our client journey. And he challenged our entire team in this team meeting with one simple task. And it was, if David Beckham walked into the office today, would you do something different? And nobody could argue that the answer was yes, I would do something different. I would probably wear my best outfit. I'd probably have my hair done. I would make sure the room smelt amazing. I'd made sure, that all of the IT was checked, that the coffee was on point. So the David Beckham client experience, because of who he is, made everybody basically power up. So we've used that basically to say, well, why isn't everybody David Beckham? Why don't we get ourselves, our mindset into the view that everybody's client experience should be the same no matter who you are. And that's a challenge, because when if you've got, hundreds of clients, or even, running a business with thousands or tens of thousands of clients, how do you make sure that happens every single day? And that's about culture, right? So introducing the right culture in your business, creating the right mindset, and more importantly, and I'll link this to your next question, is making sure the people in the business have the mindset to want to basically elevate client experience to a David Beckham level every single day. And if you don't have people in your business that want to elevate that, then that's okay, but they're in the wrong business. So we are very careful about people that come into our business and their mindset and focus on client experience. So it's a long answer to a question, but the bottom line is it's essential. It's how they judge you. And if you want clients to be ambassadors of your business, then give them a magical client experience, because they will tell somebody that they've just had this amazing experience, as probably just as fast, if not faster, than if it was a bad experience. Because you know damn well they're going to tell you if it was bad, right? Now, the technology part of your question, well, that's how we do it in 2025, right? There is technology around today that in the background that nobody sees, well, it enables us to speed things up. We have a saying in the business called fast and good. Our aim is always to deliver everything fast and good. And that means sometimes it's going to be expensive. Yeah, because if you want something that's fast and good, it's not going to be cheap. Yeah, if you want something that's fast and cheap, it's not going to be good, right? And those three words work well together. Like cheap and good won't be fast, right? So technology enables you to focus in the background mainly on delivering a better client experience through saving time. So driving efficiency through client interactions, through back office systems and processes, through tools like cashflow modeling at the face of the client meeting. And there's so much of it around, and obviously all this talk around AI and how do we use AI? Well, AI is effectively going to transform the way we work. Not just in our industry, is going to transform it, and our job is to embrace it for the greater good of our client experience. What we offer people, as you well know, in St. James's Place, is one-to-one financial advice. So this is how we are always going to operate. And that might not be for everybody, and that's okay. But this is how we are going to always operate: face-to-face, one-to-one financial advice. And we're never going to, move away from the human element of the job. But around everything else that's going on outside of this conversation, technology can help it. It can record this meeting. It can turn that recording into a communication. It could turn the minutes of the meeting into an action, automatically, configured in a system that generates an, process. We just need to embrace it, and that's what we're going to do. And the great news in St. James's Place is, we've got a chief technology officer today who is absolutely 100% laser focused on using technology for good. And Lynn is someone that I think SJP are very lucky to have. And she's only been in SJP for 3 months. And I've already seen a lot of yeses to enabling things to move faster. So really exciting. And again, the power of SJP is you wouldn't get someone like that if you were not part of SJP. You know, FTSE 100 company, 200 billion pounds of funds under management. They can leverage that to basically get amazing people that then help us deliver amazing things for our clients.
That's brilliant. Thank you. So a couple of things that I just want to pick out from that. So in your view there, what you're articulating is you see the best side of the human with the best side of technology working hand in hand to improve that client experience. And I have to say, I love the David Beckham analogy. And it does make you think from a mindset perspective about how you address, you know, each individual person. Earlier today, you promised me a client story, a client experience. So thinking about all the things that we said around cash flow modeling, the mindset, the David Beckham technology, would you be able to give us an experience that you've had in, you know, helping a client achieve their goals through, you know, some of the things that you've talked about already?
Every time I've asked this question, I only ever think of one story, even though there's hundreds of stories, right? This is a story about how we help people, right? So I was introduced to a couple and right at the beginning, in the first meeting, it was, you know, laid out very, very clearly that Alan had a terminal illness and his life expectancy was probably going to be less than a few years. And they were in their early 50s, hadn't really taken financial advice before, therefore there wasn't really a plan. And all of a sudden they were faced with this unbelievable moment in their life where they had to make their life plan 2 years long. So rather than it being 30 years long, it was how do we make it 2 years long? And what we focused on was, well, let's talk about the next 2 years then. What does an amazing 2 years together while Alan is still with us, what does that look like? And what it looked like was neither of them going to work. You know, both of them having enough money coming in on a regular basis to not only pay all their bills, but also to travel and basically create memories, be happy, and ultimately have their best life in a very short period of time. Perfect. Problem is all of the money they had was basically in pensions and they were under the age of 55. So they couldn't access them. They didn't really have any savings and they had a mortgage on their house. And so what we did is we kind of took a step backwards and say, well, we can probably create a plan that is really simple with a little bit of, you know, a little bit of thinking outside the box. So what we did was really, really simple. We created a cash flow, right? And it was a 2-year cash flow initially, but the second phase of it was when Anne was 55. And then the third phase of it was taking Anne from 55 till, 90. And what we were able to show is that by borrowing more money today to spend, that actually that could easily be repaid by taking the tax-free cash out of the pension, either when Alan passed away and it passed on to Anne, or when Anne was 55, and there would still be enough money in the pot when Anne was 55 and Alan had sadly passed away for Anne to be able to continue to have a great life. And that's what we did. And I watched them enjoy their 2 years together. I was very much involved in everything they were doing because it became a bit of a joke, They would send me pictures on WhatsApp when they were, traveling somewhere. And I went to Alan's funeral and, Anne got up and spoke, and in Anne's, looking back on Alan's life, she said, thank you to us. And it was like amazing because no one's ever done that, but I believe that Alan left this world a happy man. And I know for a fact, Anne, and we're probably 10 years on now, will be forever grateful. And the focus wasn't on how do we get paid? Are we going to, invest your money? How much are we going to grow? The focus was on how do we help this couple navigate what is going to be a really difficult 2 years and bring some joy back into their life. And it was simple in the end what we did, but it was unconventional because they'd been to see somebody else who came up with nothing. So in some respects, I can tell this story because somebody else didn't do their job properly. And we benefited from that with two great human beings. And Anne has become one of our biggest ambassadors. She will advocate us anytime we want to absolutely anybody. And obviously since then has referred and recommended people.
That's a really quite emotional story as well when you talk about, people talking in essence about you on a eulogy. I'm just be interested to know, how did that make you feel at that moment in time?
Honestly, I try and, hide behind my emotions quite a lot. Probably get that from my dad, I would have thought. But I was sat next to Amanda, who's in my team. Amanda's been with me for 24 of the 25 years. And we were both emotional at the thought that we'd done something, but we carried it back to the office. And I remember, Amanda said, we've got to tell this story because actually, she said, and I felt the same. And it wasn't just about what I did, because of course the team delivered. I may have come up with the idea. I didn't actually do a lot. The team implemented the strategy and, well supported by everybody. But we were proud. Like super proud of what we'd done at a really sad moment. But we couldn't have done, in my opinion, we couldn't have done a better job. And I'll always remember it. And the tools that we had then and the tools that we've got now, actually, it's even easier now to help. So again, if someone reaches out and says, I've got a problem, I need some guidance, I want some help, the starter is always absolutely 100% yes. Because if David Beckham walked in and said, can I have some help? Damn well you're going to say yes. So just say yes. And then, be curious. In that first opportunity with a client, just be curious. What is it you need help with? What do you think you want support with? And we're teaching the next generation of financial advisors, as with like academies and, graduate programs. And the art of curiosity it's something that I think there's a certain generation that are losing being curious. Well, in this job, you have to be curious and you have to keep going layers and layers down into people's mindsets and emotions to be able to find out, well, that's their what or their why. And then help them. It's amazing.
Brilliant. Really powerful story, Interesting. I'm just going to follow up a little bit around what you're talking about, either the academies or maybe a career changer looking to come into financial advice. From your wealth of experience and being a top class financial planner yourself, what are the characteristics you say, or in your opinion, make a good financial planner?
I've learned a lot about recruiting financial advisors. So the next generation of financial planners, because you make mistakes. You think you know what's right, and sometimes you make mistakes and misjudgments. So I think, and this is just my opinion, I think the number one, without question, is attitude, right? And the attitude to learn, the attitude to engage, the attitude, or the attitude of kind of positively thinking about everything. Without a positive attitude in this job, which is hard, it's hard sometimes financially, emotionally, physically, mentally, that positive mindset gets people through it. So that's where I would start. The first characteristic is basically positive mindset, positive attitude. And it's that classic saying, you can teach anybody anything, you can't teach people attitude. It is in their DNA, and we're trying to find people whose DNA is positive. They obviously, should be interested in helping people. That's really important part of our process. This is why you want to do the job. But the other thing, which I think is hugely important, is why do you want to do the job? And I've been in many interview process with people where we're trying to find out, what's your why? And they lead with, I want to help people. Why do you want to help people? Well, because I believe in changing people's lives. But actually, they need to help themselves. So we're actually looking for people that go, and, so I want to learn, I want to grow, I want to help people, and I want to create a better financial future for me and my family. Because that's what this industry, this career, it can really deliver an amazing piece of financial security for us and our family through hard work, positive mindset, being a part of a team, a great culture, it can do it. And so anybody that's, in a job at the moment that's not inspiring, not motivating them, who's really interested in making a huge difference to their personal family life, and they've got a positive mindset with a little bit of financial acumen, reach out. They're hard to find, but when you find them, they're amazing. And we're lucky to have a lot of those people working in SJP and continue to build on that platform with, academies, not only throughout the UK, but overseas as well now. So it's very exciting.
Fantastic. So just coming to a bit of a close now. So probably my finishing question, which you've answered slightly in the last bit that you just articulated there. So if you're speaking directly now to somebody thinking or either thinking about a new career in financial advice or maybe, looking to join St. James's Place, what would you encourage them to do to take that leap?
It's a really good question. So what would I encourage them to do? First real thing to do is to think about why you want to do the job. It goes back to that why point, right? It needs to be, in my opinion, it needs to be driven by wanting to help yourself and your family and wanting to help other people. If that's what you want to do with the rest of your life, then financial advice is made for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you can do that every day. Literally every day, you can help somebody and you can help multiple people. And you can help as many people as you possibly want. You just build capacity and infrastructure and people around you to enable you to grow your business which is what I've done. I mean, I had no clients in 2000, didn't have any. Built my business up, and now we're if you like a global business looking after something like 16 or 17,000 clients. Well, how did that happen? Well, it happened because the focus, right at the beginning was how can I help myself and how can I help people? So it's an amazing career. The first step is really simple, in my opinion. It's walk towards us. Yeah. Don't be shy.
Yeah.
If you're, anybody that is remotely interested in that and you've got those key attributes, then just walk towards us. I caught up with one of our team in Dubai today to talk about, recruitment opportunities in SJP, Asia, Middle East. And actually what we ended up with is, yes, of course, experience and qualifications is really important. And there's a gap that we want to fill with recruiting experienced advisors. Yeah. But equally, if someone walks towards you that doesn't necessarily tick all of the boxes, don't push them away. Send them to us, because great people are hard to find. And when you find them, you can make them amazing. So that would be my word of advice. And just do it. Yeah. You won't have any regrets in this company, in its culture. We haven't really talked about the culture bit, because the SJP community, it is a community, right? There's individuals striving to achieve personal objectives, but we collaborate. We work together, not only just in Dubai and the Emirates, but also in our other locations in Singapore, Hong Kong, and the UK. So much collaboration. And if you need help helping a client, you just need to look over your shoulder or turn around to your colleague, because there is somebody out there that can absolutely help you. And we collaborate so much, and that creates a really positive culture, a non-combative culture and environment, which makes it a safe place to work, which is inspiring in some respects.
That's fantastic. Ian, thank you for sharing your story today.
Pleasure, sir. Thanks for having me again.
What comes through is that being an advisor isn't just about numbers. It's about relationships, clarity, and building futures that clients can depend on. For anyone listening who's considering a career in financial advice or looking for a place where you can grow with the right support, we hope this conversation has given you a sense of what makes St. James's Place unique. Thanks again for joining us on Beyond the Numbers, putting the human side of financial planning first. Thank you.